Life at sea can be rewarding, but the pressures can be challenging too. Seize the Mind trains seafarers to become mental health first aiders, vital for both well-being and safety on board. Mental health first aid helps identify depression, anxiety, and burnout, creating safer, more supportive environments. Our globally recognized courses equip crew with the tools to support themselves and to support each other. Support your crew's mental well-being. Book your training with Seize the Mind today. Seize the Mind, mental health first aid for seafarers. Visit seizethemind.co.uk for more information.
Welcome to this episode of White Pals Tales from the Superyacht Laundry. I am joined today by Laura Kilbey. She's recently become slightly famous on social media
I don't know about that.
being a pioneer on daring to talk about drinking in relation to the yachting industry. You lunatic. Surely the industry doesn't have a drink problem.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to have you here. With all of the podcasts, how I start is, how did you find the yachting industry?
How did I get into yachting?
Yeah, how did you get drawn into...
Sucked into. Well, so I've always been at sea since I was a kid. We lived on a boat when I was in my infancy. My parents built a boat, a sailing yacht, and bought a hull, built the yacht. And so always just lived on board. So I've always sort of been at sea, really. And then
So you were a little baby on board a boat?
I was a little baby on board a boat.
Being a mum now, just gives me anxiety. Because I know how much my daughter tries to kill herself when she was like a toddler in a house.
I was
let
very
alone
determined.
on the water, bobbing around.
Yeah, my parents talk of stories of, being in the Straits of Messina when I nearly lost a toe. I think we were coming round, we were near Jib and lost steering, all sorts of fun things, and you've got like a toddler tied on to the boat. But yeah, I was quite determined to injure myself. But so I was always at sea. It was just sort of in me, really. And then when I deciding what to do with my life, and obviously from having that sort of sailing background, we had lots of people who were in and around boats and yachting and sailing and all that sort of thing. So we had a family friend whose daughter was doing it, and I was like, I might do that for a summer. That might be fun. And here I am, several summers later.
So how old were you when you...
I was 20, I think, when I joined. Yeah, 20. Feels like just yesterday.
Duck to water when you drifted aboard? Was it just like... It was obviously sailing on a boat and then cleaning a boat and living as a... it's slightly different.
Oh, yeah. I mean, sorry. I think everybody's first season is a real baptism of fire. Nobody really knows what they're getting themselves into. And I think especially now, where you have a lot of people in the last few years in the industry where I was sort of looking to hire people, there's a lot of people coming in who are sort of enticed by the below deck, like, it's all very glamorous and, I'm going to get to be famous and all that sort of thing. And I think there's a bit of a misrepresentation of how much hard work it can be. It's not all 3-day charter and $2,000 tips. There's a lot of hard work. And so of course it was a bit of an eye-opener joining the industry. I was 20 and didn't know what to expect, but yeah, here I am.
Did you enjoy cleaning with, cotton buds and stuff?
Yeah. That's been the highlight of my life so far, let alone my career. Yeah.
I remember when I was at the cleaning caddy, I'm like, what are the cotton buds for? Oh. for that, are they? Yay. So obviously you were on board. What do you love? What did you love initially, and what did you hate about yachting? Because you don't seem like. Did you miss home? Didn't care? Like living your best life?
No, I mean, you know, my life has always been, I suppose, a little bit unconventional. So when I was, I don't know, 18, I must have been 18, I think. Like my parents, we were living in the UK. We'd always, as a family, sort of, you know, like I say, we had a boat. We moved to the UK when I was a kid so I could go to school. But my parents moved to the south of France when I was like 18. So I was like home alone, you know, actually living my best life. House parties or gatherings. We said it's not a party, it's a gathering. Made it sound slightly more
sophisticated.
Acceptable, less debaucherous. But so yeah, no, I didn't really miss home. I was 20. I was in the south of France. I was absolutely loving life. I was, you know, rosé on the beach and, you know, Australian deckhands, fabulous. You know, but
an Australian deckhand.
But what did I just love being at sea. I love being at sea. I love doing crossings. I just love that space and the vastness of it all. And you know, people would be like, oh my God, are we there yet? And the closer we got to land, I'd be like, oh, I'd rather stay out here for another few weeks, really. I just love being at sea. And what did I struggle with? Lack of autonomy, I think, to be honest. That's all, you know, you wake up at this time, you wear this, you do this, and even when you're not working, there are rules and regulations that you must follow at all times, you know. So I think that was a bit of a adjustment, but it's ups and downs with every
It's
job,
quite interesting you said, like, it's that rigid structure. See, I quite like the rigid structure, because then you don't have to make any decisions. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is kind of a given, and I kind of just... Yes, obviously, initially it's kind of a little bit of a shock to the system, but I kind of quite liked getting into the flow of it. So you don't even have to think about your day. It's already planned
mapped out for you.
You've got to... So you can do other things.
See, I'm somebody who always... It's funny, as you sort of learn about yourself, I always thought I was this quite, you know, free spirit and everything. It turns out I thrive in routine. But sort of a routine of my own making, perhaps. But no, I think it's just... What I didn't like, I suppose, when I first joined, like I say, it's just that sort of like, oh, I'm always at work. You know, there's always... You can come home and go to put something in the dishwasher at 11 o'clock at night and you're like, oh, I need to empty the dishwasher, I can't leave it on the... You know, you're like, there's always... I suppose that, but I mean, how minor is that? And of course, eventually, you know, being away from home and family and friends, and as time progressed, there were weddings and babies and things like that you miss, so... I
do think the industry, you know, is in some respects getting better, because obviously when I started and when you started... You got, 2 months holiday if you're lucky? A year? Like, it's not like even. The rotation. Yeah. Rotation? What?
No, rotation didn't
exist. You rotate the tumble dryers. There's no other rotation.
No.
In now.
There's a much better understanding now of, obviously there's been a massive push in the last few years for crew mental health. And the industry, I think, they have to protect crew a little bit more, because if they're starting to sort of make changes and things like rotation and that make a big difference. You know, even for junior crew, there's sort of rotation that just didn't exist. You know, it just didn't exist.
I mean, you didn't in my day. Makes me feel I'm so old and decrepit. Chief stewards would be lucky. Definitely not second officers, you know, heard of captains, first officers getting rotation, but
engineers.
The others, sometimes engineers. especially if they've been with the boss for a long time, they start to get a little bit more flexibility, but not the lower ranks.
No.
Not saying that chiefs choose lower rank, obviously, but it was never a thing.
No.
You know, they were rare positions. So yeah, you got it easy if you're on board right now.
May not feel like it.
May not feel like it, but back in our day, it was hard. No, so obviously we're talking about back in the day, the lifestyle on board, the social lifestyle on board. You took to it quite well, would you say?
Well, you know what's interesting, and the whole, you know, with what I've started here in terms of talking about sobriety in the industry, was on my first boat I didn't drink. I didn't drink anything. I drank Perrier. You know, it was something that I had been for this holistic allergy testing, and alcohol didn't agree with me. So I didn't drink anything. But on board, there were a few people who did drink heavily. So I was sort of witness to it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a sort of, you hear about the work hard, play hard. But then I got a boyfriend, and we were in the south of France, and we were going out in JLP, and I sort of, you know, I started drinking again. And
French water.
yeah, wine was cheaper than water in those days. But we were out on a night out. I called his bluff and sort of said, like, you know, go on, have a drink. And I was like, no, I don't drink. And I was like, right, I'm only going to drink if I can't remember what the champagne was, but it was an expensive champagne on the menu. Mm-hmm. And then he called my bluff and bought it. And I
hate it.
And that was, that was that. You know, we were together then for a few years, and it was just back to drinking. But
on board, because it obviously, you know, crew mentality, you do work hard, play hard. There is a lot of connection that goes on socially. You know, it is part, I would say it's a real strong part, because you want to feel bonded with your crew. And obviously, apart from the day-to-day, what is there to bond you? Do you know what I mean? Like, as an external, you've got the job, and the job bonds you together. Do you think we lean into drinking because it's the easiest thing to do?
Absolutely. It's
just because it's easy.
It's there. It's right there.
It's cool. Let's go have a laugh. Let's get loose. We've just worked for 3 weeks straight.
But I mean, it is the go-to, not just in yachting, you know, just in society in general, but just in life. It's the go-to de-stressor, relaxant. It's a way to switch off, to distract yourself. So of course that comes into yachting, and it's accessible. And, you know, you have often, you know, you've been on board 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Oh my God. I mean, last summer? It was like an 8-week boss trip or something. What do you want to do? No, it was summer before that. But, you know, just like, fuck me, just want to get off the boat, feel like a human, not feel like a servant. And I just want to let loose. I've maybe got a bit of money to burn in my back pocket. Fuck it. You know, it's just the go-to, you know. And I've said so many times, there's nothing wrong with drinking per se. You know, I'm not out here saying nobody should drink and drinking is the devil. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. Is drinking good for you? Well, we all know objectively that no, it's not. But that's not the conversation for now. But it's just, it doesn't necessarily suit everybody. And it's those people where they're like, you know what, this isn't serving me. Every time I go out, I'm finding myself dealing with more regret, more shame. It's having an impact on my mental health. And it's just sort of finding alternatives for the people where it's just like, I don't think this is for me anymore.
I think we're like with yachties as well, we try to be all sophisticated. We're going to go for dinner. This is the thing. Like, we're not just gonna go. We're
shirts and skirts, baby. Shirts and skirts.
We're not just gonna go to the hop store. We're gonna go for dinner. So we're gonna go for dinner,
and then we're gonna go to the hop store,
and we're gonna order, because we've all got money to burn. Obviously, a ton of nice wine. With dinner.
Yeah. Well, Rock Angel all round. Used to be Domainot, but Domainot's like a bit passé now, isn't it?
It was always. I mean, I was. It's sort of the things. If you're only listening, you won't see it. It's like whispering angel.
Yeah,
that would be the code. So you wouldn't have to say it out loud. You would just go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that everybody knew. Obviously another bottle was on its way, kind of thing. But we always, like, all the boats, like, it'd always come from a captain. When the captain wants to get loose, he was like, we're going to go for dinner as a crew. Oh, right. Okay. So the captain...
10 o'clock start tomorrow.
Yeah. So that means we can get really loose, because he's coming with us.
Yeah.
And by the time we leave dinner, he's going to be probably well on his way. He won't want to come to the hop store unless he's even further gone. But you know what I mean? It's
busting out the cigars, start at 10, finish at 3.
But it's, we do, you want to have a good time. You've worked really hard. You want to have some nice food, even if you're going to throw up later. Because that was me. I would,
Tactical chunder.
Not even tactical, just my body.
Necessary.
So you talk about, alcohol doesn't agree with you. I have, my body does not process alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm one of those people, certain alcohols, the sulfates will make my cheeks go red.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have, nearly an allergic reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I'm sick all the time, it took me ages to work out what the hell was going on. I think it was only after, having my child that I'm like, why am I so bad? But it's literally, my body doesn't have the enzymes to break it down. So literally just that whispering angel just sits in my stomach and just doesn't go anywhere, and I can't break it down. So obviously by 3 o'clock in the morning, what are you going to do with it?
It's coming out one way or another.
It's coming out one way.
The way it went
and
in.
People don't there's lots of science behind drinking. They just don't realise.
Absolutely.
I was a terrible person to go clubbing with. All through my early teens and everything else. Terrible person to go. But now I've got an excuse. Really, I shouldn't drink. But it didn't stop me. It didn't stop me. Will it stop me? I'm going out for dinner tonight. Probably will have a couple. I don't drink, obviously, at the same extent as what you are encouraged to do when you're young. But even when I was young, I was useless. It was not.
It's curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because if you had that reaction to any other food, you probably wouldn't eat it.
I don't know. I probably shouldn't eat white bread the way that I do eat.
Does it make you throw up?
It leaves me quite bloated, and obviously it's all just pure sugar. When I was pregnant, I used to eat a whole baguette. Esme loves.
A whole baguette.
A whole baguette with peanut butter. That was my thing.
That's a starter.
But France,
too easy.
Also, French bread. It's not fair, basically. For people that come from this country to go there and just go get a fresh baguette. And,
it's absolutely
some nice meat and a bottle of whispering angel, and have it on the toilet bowl beach, looking for a job.
Yeah, I know.
He's just looking for a job. So we all do it. Every crew does it. It's part of the job, I suppose. The easiest part of the job. They go up, we get off, we socialise.
The alluring part.
Yeah, but you're young, you want to have fun, you're in a cool place, you want to go explore, you want to experience it, I do think things have changed, but if you've got a crew of 12, you haven't got 12 bikes for you to all go on a bike ride.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And, I'm not saying that crew only drink, because they do day trips, and I think they're loads more active these days, trying to do other things. But doing stuff, for instance, look at Barcelona. That marina's been redone. It's now got a crew gym. Do you know what I mean? These things didn't exist in a lot of marinas.
No.
You know?
I definitely think there's been a big shift as well. So just, again, if we look at society as a whole, people aren't drinking as much, especially sort of, the younger people. And so I think it's also just giving the people, there was something not that long ago where somebody put on, I can't remember what it was either On Tebe Yacht Crew or Yachties and On Tebe or Palmy, one of those, I really want to get into the industry, but I don't drink. And the response that person received was, oh my God, grow up. This isn't the industry for you if you don't drink.
What?
I know. And I was tagged in that. And, it really started the conversation where it's like, there are more and more people who don't drink, actually, just in the world, like the next generation. Nobody drinks to the same extent as maybe our generation drank. I know we were talking about this, you don't have to drink to socialise. People have got mobile phones. Everybody's communicating with people, online. If you want to date somebody, you just swipe right. You don't need to go to a bar to get shit-faced to build up the courage to, try and chat somebody up. People.
That is the fun bit. I wouldn't recommend swiping right. That's way too easy.
But, but the way that we communicate, the way we socialise is evolving and is changing, and there's more, focus on going to the gym and health and all that sort of thing. So there definitely is a shift, but there's also lots of people in the industry. This isn't just for people who are like, I think I, ought to stop drinking. It's not agreeing with me, but it's for people in the industry who just don't drink or aren't interested in drinking, but they don't have that sort of space that supports them, so it's just trying to offer a bit of community for people so they don't, because it's really isolating. Yachting can be isolating anyway. If you're lucky, you get on a boat where you have a great crew, but sometimes, it just doesn't fit, but you're stuck there for another couple of months. Add on to that, if you don't drink, or sobriety can be isolating and yachting can be isolating. You put those two things together.
But on the same side, drinking too much can be isolating. If you think about the individuals on board that I've worked with where their drinking was just out of control. So you just avoid them. You try to go out, but without that, that's when you start to get crew divide, which nobody wants. But it's, it can swing both ways. You've got someone that's trying to be on a health kick that kind of isolates themselves in a lot of ways. Or you get someone that is just a complete liability and you start to separate from them socially off the boat, which can then lead to separating
but it's
on
also,
the boat.
It's a massive misnomer, because you think that alcohol makes you more social and more convivial and more fun. But as you say, it's like, actually, sometimes the reality is it can make you a bit of a pain in the arse. Yeah. But that's by the by. But actually, in terms of how you feel in yourself, it's wildly isolating. Waking up in the morning with that, oh my God, what did I do? Do I want to go into the crew mess? I can't face seeing anybody. I feel like an arsehole. I don't know what I did. Did I tell so-and-so that thing? Yeah. Did I
actually grab his ass?
Yeah. And, what happened? Or, and it just mentally can do us so much damage. It really can. And there are so many people who I know in the industry, obviously I've been around for a long time, who drink a fair amount. It impacts them not at all. They drink a fair amount, they don't get out of hand, they just crack on, all good, and good for you, absolutely live your life how you want to live your life, but it's just for so many people, there are those really isolating moments where you feel completely alone and you think, oh my God, I'm the only person who feels like this. I feel like an absolute scumbag, or I feel really shit, or I said I wasn't going to drink too much and I drank too much. I said I wasn't going to drink this weekend, so I wanted to go for this hike and I wanted to do that, but here I am on Monday morning feeling like a wanker. I'm bloated, I don't feel very nice, I did it again, and maybe nothing terrible happened. It's not like every time people drink something earth-shattering happens, but it's just that constant slow erosion of like self-trust. And sort of being able to show up in a way that you want to show up, and that's isolating as well, because you feel that disconnection from yourself. So
I mean, it's like, I don't imagine drinking in the industry is going away anytime soon.
No, I doubt it.
But to start the conversation is a good thing. I mean, I mentioned to you about, I worked for a captain, absolutely adored this captain, but one of his hiring things,
the process,
was he'd give the person the job and then we would go out for dinner to celebrate or whatever, and he would really try hard to see whether that person would, go for it. Do you know what I mean? How would they have that restraint not to get leathered when free booze is just being laid on really thick by him and obviously the rest of the crew that they're joining, just to see if there's any warning signs of being a liability, being a sex pest. And it might be quite, thinking back to it, super old school way of doing it. Then there were no other ways, there weren't recruiters back in his day. There wasn't like things like crew pass or vetting or all those things. It was literally like old school, right? Let's get you out, get you leathered, see what you're like.
See if
if you turn into a knobhead or not. To me, like I said, hopefully that's kind of changed. But that's thinking back, it's kind of like a hardcore way to right, well, let's...
Yeah, and what would happen if the person got shit-faced? Would they lose their job, or...?
Well, I think when we discussed it, it's really, he was a salty sea dog. He'd been around a long time. Love him to bits, but he really wanted crew cohesion, so he didn't like emotionally damaged women. So obviously if you get a stew or a chief stew that after a few drinks they're bawling their eyes out, and all of the obviously male crew are like wide-eyed going, oh yay, she looks nice. And then you've got obviously the other side, which is male crew member gets that no point. They become somebody else's responsibility. They can drink and they don't mind drinking past that point where they don't have autopilot. Somebody else is going to have to pick them up and take them back to the boat. Or the sex pest thing. That all appropriate behaviour just goes out of the window and they turn into a complete idiot. So it is, let's put it, a rudimentary way, of let's see whether you're a knob or not. So he just goes for it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's, as you say, pretty old school.
It is
a way of creating a really toxic
I suppose in a way it just quickly gets to the point, And don't get me wrong, it was, when I worked for him, it was the best crew that I've ever worked for, so maybe it works, because he...
Just don't show any emotions in front of him.
Well, he didn't mind emotions, but like I said, drinking stops your inhibitions. And also it lets out stuff. Do you know what I mean? If you're not a very happy person inside, like I see alcohol as an amplifier. If you're not a happy person, non-happy things will come out when you've lost control because you've had a drink.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? If you're an aggressive person, aggression will come out after a few drinks. So I suppose in a way, like his method, it was rudimentary, yes, but it just got to the point, like, when the floodgates are open, who is inside? Who is that? Who are those? Where are those things that you're bottling up that maybe you're not dealing with?
Yeah, what could be a problem in the future?
Yeah. So when did your relationship with drinking on board change? When did you start going? Did you go back to? Because I think you've mentioned that you stopped drinking for a while, then you'd be drinking. Fun Laura, non-fun Laura, fun Laura, long.
So I have been flirting with sobriety for a while, and I feel like actually I probably knew for a long time that not drinking was going to be the right path for me, but I didn't want to stop drinking because I like drinking. I like going for boozy rosé lunches. I like going for, Sunday afternoon, like day drinking when it's like, oh, we're off for the weekend. Okay, the crew's going to go out. We're going to go back in the day, used to go to Morea and, you know, like have...
Oh, Morea. It closed down, didn't
I know.
Devastated.
You know, I loved that. It was fun. It was, as you say, you get to, you know, footloose, fancy free, all that sort of good thing. But I did know that it just didn't really agree with me. And it took a long time for me to accept that, I think, because I was under the illusion that, well, if I stop drinking, in order to stop drinking, I have to become this person over here. And this person over here, she doesn't drink coffee. She's, you know, very holistic. I know, she's very holistic, very sort of...
2 litres of water a day.
I don't do that. I don't know what you mean. No, I was always a water bully on board. Have you drunk enough water today? But, you know, I was just like, I don't want to give up being fun. And I sort of felt like, well, if I stop drinking, I'm going to have to stop being fun. And that is the biggest load of bullshit. But it was a lie that kept me drinking, because I was like, well, I'm not ready to stop being fun yet. Where did I get that idea from, that not drinking meant that I had to be boring? It was this illusion that I created.
It's not like I suppose it's
not the drinking that makes...
Well, you're more likely to do karaoke if you're drunk. Do you know what I mean? Like, it is there. It does. You know, it does what it says on the tin. You dare to do stuff. You dance on tables. You know, you twerk and stuff. Wait, after drinking.
We've not been out with me sober.
I'm not coming. If you do that sober, I'm definitely not coming, because that kind of freaks me out even more. It's bad enough with my husband doing karaoke sober. Why? Why would you do that?
No, I mean, I have to be honest, I'm not much of a twerker at the best of times. But I definitely, the thought of doing karaoke doesn't frighten me, I have to admit. But
what's your worst memory of being drunk? Was there a time?
Can't tell you, can't remember. No, there are so many instances, you know, and I think this is the thing. It's not like every time. So people have an idea, I think, of, right, in order to stop drinking, you need to have hit this certain point. You have to hit rock bottom. You need to be an absolute shit show every time you drink. You have to be drinking in the morning. You have to have the shakes. You have to have all these sort of things. And until I get to that point, it's not bad enough for me to stop drinking. So I wasn't at that point. So a lot of the times that I would go out, I would still have, you know, my faculties. But sometimes I wouldn't. And talking about worse things, I mean, yes, did I have to get carried back to the boat on occasion? Yes. Did I wake up in the middle of the night and projectile vomit all over my shower? Yes. Did I make questionable choices? Yes. Did I... I think we've all been there, though. Let's face it.
Yeah, no. My earliest memory of doing something really stupid. So, from starting drinking to, I was always a homing pigeon. Like, I got really good with knowing where my limit was, and I'm like, I've got to go. I've got to go, because I'm either going to vomit in public, or...
Did you used to do the old Irish exit and just fuck off home and not tell anybody?
I used to do my friend's heads in, because I'm like, where is she?
I've got friends like that.
I've got to go. I've got to go, because
where is she?
Because I didn't trust anybody to kind of carry me or whatever. I mean, my earliest memory of just being literally so drunk. So drunk. So first girl holiday, landed in Magaluf, classy. We got to the hotel at
No whispering angel in Magaluf, darling.
No, not like those days. Got
fish bowls all round.
I was getting to that bit. So we got there, we landed and got to the hotel at like 9:00. Got in, obviously got changed, went out. First bar we're going to, they're offering like, I think I was drinking Archers at that point. So like double Archers or whatever, the peach schnapps and lemonade, buy one get one free. So we're all over that. I don't think we ate anything in particular. obviously the next bar, it was a fucking goldfish bowl of some blue stuff, which...
Why was it always blue?
So anyway, watered down vodka and God knows what else. So we did all of those, and I was probably more drunk. That was the first time I really remember being so drunk. And I'm like, I've got to get back to the hotel. So obviously I bolted. I remember walking down the street. I could see the hotel, walking down the street. I held onto this tree because I was like struggling.
It turned out to be a man.
Vomited. No, it was still a tree. Vomited all down the tree, all on my sister's shoes that I'd stolen because I wanted to take them on holiday. I don't even think I gave them back to her because I couldn't get the stains out. Like all
she was
over my
probably
shoes,
grateful
and
not to get them back.
I literally horrified that they're on the shoes, and that I've got to walk with vomit in these shoes, which are squelching all the way back. Like, just class, there's British classiness in Magaluf,
All you needed to do is pee in the street, and that's the trifecta.
Oh, no. I don't think I've ever done that.
Oh, I have.
Not peed in the street. I vomited a lot.
Don't lie.
I've not. That was my thing. But I think women and male drinking is also slightly different.
Yeah.
Because you become more vulnerable.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's easy to laugh and joke about, and somebody once said to me, we're all entitled to a misspent youth. And I just think I missed where my youth cut off. Just, I feel pretty young still. So, but yeah, it's easy to be like, oh God, remember that embarrassing thing? But there are times where, like I say, sorry, I would often drink to blackout, and people think that blackout is passing out. It's not. It's walking around, fully functioning. Okay, maybe you're a little bit slurry or stumbling around a little bit, but you're not sort of passed out in a corner. But your brain, when you drink a certain amount, your brain is no longer able to form memories. So that's why the next day you don't remember things. You have these periods of blackout because your brain was not able to sort of solidify that into memory. So that's when you wake up and you're like, what the fuck did I do last night? So I've had, I drank to that point far too many times. And that was really where a lot of my...
Did you ever do anything to piss somebody off? Like, you ever wake up in the morning and
it's a Popo Catholic, of course. Who hasn't pissed people off when they're drunk? But most of the time, I have. I have caused numerous arguments with romantic partners, picking fights over nothing. I was never really an aggressive person. Thankfully, that wasn't, I wouldn't pick fights generally. But, we can all just be a fucking knob when we're drunk, and things happen that, you act in a way that you wouldn't typically act. And but a lot of the thing when you do drink to a point to black out and you maybe don't remember things is the next day your brain will give you a whole ream of all the worst possible things you could have done, and you have no idea whether you did it or not. So you're in this state of complete anxiety because you think, oh my God, what did I do? Probably.
It's that sinking feeling, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like, I did something.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it was, but I have a really bad feeling that I've done something.
And because alcohol does it's a depressant and it creates these feelings of shame. And perhaps, you have historic experience of doing things when you've been drunk that you weren't proud of. Your brain goes to this negative place. And it ends up just creating this cycle. And so you wake up and you think, well, I probably did something bad because I'm a bad person. And when I'm drunk, I do bad things, and it can be that you haven't done anything. It's not just because your brain tells you that doesn't mean that you've done something, but, your brain catastrophizes, and it can just be a really lonely, dark place. But in terms of, you ask about my experience, apart from all this sort of generic stuff, like getting too drunk, being sick, having to be carried home. I mean, there have been times when I have been in some pretty unsafe situations. when I was living in Barcelona, I was out with a friend. I got mugged. Thankfully, I wasn't I hurt myself a little. I fell over. The guy tried to rip my bag off. I fell over, hurt my hand, but nothing sort of serious. There have been times where I have had men act in a way that is inappropriate, which, has resulted in some pretty nasty outcomes, which had I have been sober, I perhaps wouldn't have put myself in those situations in the first place, which is not to say that it's a very fine line, because had I not have been drunk, I would have been more cognizant of the environment that I was in. But it's not necessarily, I would say it's not my fault that there are arsehole men that will take advantage of a drunk woman. But if I weren't drunk, I wouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. I think I would have been more just
savvy.
Yeah, I don't know. What's the word?
I mean, this is that you're talking about the eternal grey area, for women, which is you get, invited to someone's place, everything's all above board, you're having a few drinks, they're having a few drinks. Kind of looks like maybe something's on the table, but ultimately, at what point are you allowed to say no up till? Well, you're always allowed to say no, but this is you're playing the game, they're playing the game, and then there's this grey area where things can just go horribly, horribly wrong. And like you said, if you're inhibited by alcohol, it's more likely to go wrong. If there is any doubt in you, you're kind of just getting more and more vulnerable as the situation continues.
Yeah, and I can tell you as well, just, if you are somebody who drinks to blackout and you've had an experience like that, there are few things more frightening than not knowing what happened and not knowing if you consented to something or not, because you don't remember. And so that sort of thing, it's not something I talk about very often, but that sort of thing creates a hell of a lot of internal... Is damage too strong a word? I don't know. But,
it's not, I don't think that's too much.
But, it's not to say that, something terrible... Because I don't know. I just don't know. And that wasn't enough for me to stop drinking, because that was, a one-off experience that happened. Like I say, I still don't really know the details because my brain did not form a memory. So... but that still wasn't enough for me to stop drinking, because, that was it. That doesn't happen every time I drink. Bad things don't happen every time I drink. I carried on drinking for another 10 years after that. Maybe not 10 years, but a while after that.
I've had lots and lots of discussions about the grey area, and I think that's why rape cases and sexual assault cases get so hard. I mean, to be honest, I don't think the authorities actually do enough. But because it is a grey area where, the consent moment, time, unfortunately, the responsibility rests solely on us, and like we said, if you're drinking to a point where you're gambling, whether you black out or not, unfortunately, the responsibility is just going to be on you. Because well, I know I'm being a bit too cynical now, but it's hard to pin the responsibility on guys.
Well, I think as well, the trouble with alcohol and with blackout drinking is the fact that you don't know you're in blackout at the time because you're fully cognizant and, you, like I say, you're walking, talking, everything's fine. You don't know that you're perhaps, in that sort of state. And it is really difficult because we do have a certain amount of personal responsibility to keep ourselves safe. But by the same token, there's always going to be arseholes out there.
Oh, yeah.
And so whilst I think it's such an important conversation, because unfortunately shit can happen, bad things happen sober, bad things happen drunk, but it's just another element of fear and another thing where unfortunately, every woman should be entitled to wear what they want, act how they want, and be safe, but that's not the world that we live in, and it's unfortunately the case. And we saw I don't watch Below Deck. Can't bring myself to watch it, but there was that incident where a guy was drunk and got into bed with a girl. That sort of thing happens. He was drunk, so whether she was drunk was irrelevant actually, because he made that choice when he had been drinking. But there are things, I've had so many occasions on board where I've had to lock my door because people are going out, they're going to get drunk, they're going to come home, they're going to be a nuisance. And it's not to say that people are unsafe when they're drinking, but there have also been instances where we've had like a new crew member and you don't know who your crew are.
No.
And you do have to sort of implicitly trust people who are strangers. And we had an occasion as a new crew member, and he got drunk and he climbed into bed with two separate stewardesses and also the captain, but because he was inebriated, which is it's just a frightening thing to be in. This was you've got a 50 kilo stewardess and you've got 120 kilo engineer who's clambering into bed drunk into your bed, and you're sort of saying, hey, this isn't your cabin, this isn't your cabin. I don't think he had any ill intention whatsoever. It was just people get drunk and they sort of it was a new boat, went into the wrong cabin. But it's just one of these things where it's like, unfortunately, alcohol does just take your vulnerability to another level.
Always give the benefit of the doubt first, though. This is one of the other things, if I always knew when I'd had too much and I went on autopilot to get home, sometimes I think, there is a difference in attitude towards women's drinking and men's drinking, because men are like, oh, you've just leathered and, having a laugh. I'm like, yeah, but if I was just leathered and having a laugh, do you know what I mean? Like I think there's a slight difference about, she was a complete liability. He was just funny. It's not funny.
No, but I think, nobody found his behaviour funny either. He wasn't let off with that behaviour. He also peed in the linen cupboard.
Sacrilege. That's a firing offence.
It was.
Damn it.
But yeah, but I also think, not everybody, we're not all created equal. And some people drink copious amounts and they never drink to black out.
Yeah.
Some people drink twice as much as me and they can remember everything. Some people drink very little. Alcohol affects everybody differently. And some people can have a couple of glasses and be shit-faced. Some people can have 3 bottles and be fine, and still be completely cognizant and completely aware of their surroundings. So I think it's also just knowing and learning yourself. And I realised for me, alcohol was just really holding me back from the potential that I felt that my life had. And I was just like, you know what? I have all these goals and I have all these things that I want to do. And I feel like alcohol is not going to help me get there. It's not helping. It is not actually bringing any additional positives to my life. Let's just see how we get on without it. And I just not look back. I was expecting it to be really hard. I was expecting it to be, as I say, like, well, I'm going to have to completely forego my social life. And now I'm going to be boring and I'm going to, go live in a retreat in the mountains, which does sound quite nice. But, I was sort of like, right, I'm going to become, this nun-like, and it's just not been the case at all. I think I went into it with a completely different mindset, which was I stopped drinking because I wanted my life to be better. I was thinking, how is my life going to improve by drinking? I didn't focus on what I'm going to be missing, which is, I've focused on what I was going to be gaining, and in doing that, it just completely changed the game.
So how long have you been
I never share how long.
Oh, okay.
Because, and you know, the reason why that is because I literally, and I say this all the time, it is just day one is as important as day 5,000. It's just getting through each day.
Okay.
And I know when I was like first days of not drinking, I would see people online who were like, woo, I'm like 4 years sober. And I'm like, I'm never going to get there. I'm never going to get there. And I found like some people find it really inspiring and some people find it overwhelming. And it's also within a couple of months, I would say, within a couple of weeks even of not drinking, my life started improving. And I don't want people to think, shit, it's only going to get better once I've got like X amount of time under my belt. So that's why I'm quite sort of, I don't know, a bit, it was just a decision. I was like, I just don't know. I don't know, maybe I will do in the future. I'm not sure.
I'm sure you will do it
At some
when
point.
the time is right. So obviously in this reevaluation of what's important in life and what you wanted out of life, you've created the Sobriety Crew Social Club.
Nearly.
Oh, have I got it the wrong way around?
Sober Crew Social Club.
Sober Crew Social Club.
The mouthful. I know, it's too long. I didn't think of that. Didn't think I'd be saying it so much.
Social Club on Instagram.
Yes.
And obviously, I've been following it for you a little bit. Why did you start it?
Well, lots of reasons, actually. I think the primary reason was, two primary reasons. One was for accountability for myself, because I know how easy it is to be back on a boat and to sort of be like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to have a drink. Especially, you know, chief stewardess, I have to smell wine, I have to make sure it's not corked, I'm making cocktails, I'm teaching girls how to make cocktails. How easy is it to just be like, you know? So one was just like, I'm going to put myself out there in a really fucking terrifying way. And the other thing was just community, really. Community in the way of wanting to meet other people who were sober in the industry, because I knew it wasn't just me out there. And I also knew from when I was drinking in the industry and I had people on board who didn't want to drink, that was really confronting for me. And so I was the person who I now don't like. I was like, oh, really? You're not going to have a drink? Because it was the mirror being held up to me. And I was like, how can you sit there and not have a drink? You know, but it was because I didn't think that I could sit there and not have a drink, you know. And so it was, I know what it's like to be on both sides of it. And I just sort of thought the more that I can meet other sober people, help other sober people meet other sober people, the easier it is. And so I was just like, if I can just, you know, and I have a history in coaching. I was just like, there's so much about not drinking it's not about not drinking. Not drinking is the easy part, actually. Just don't drink. It's that simple. If you don't want to drink, just don't drink. It's not the not drinking that's the hard part. It's the how do I deal with a hard day? How do I deal with being happy? How do I deal with changing my habits? How do I deal with changing my mindset so that drinking isn't the thing that I need? How do
Habit's a big thing.
Yeah, habit and mindset's huge as well. But it's just like, how do I deal with life without drinking if I've been dealing with life by drinking? You know, and that's why it really is, you know, just getting through the day without drinking can be fucking hard. But it's like, okay, why is it so hard? Because what is alcohol giving me that I need? And for a lot of people for whom alcohol, it sort of becomes a crutch. You know, it's like, oh, it's been such a hard day. Right, I need a beer. You know, it's that automatic go-to, as you say, it's habitual. And that's really where the challenge lies, is dealing with changing those ingrained habits and things like that to just sort of make different choices, and also just to get to know yourself as well.
What's the response been since you've started it?
I have been blown away. Honestly, I have. I don't know. I don't even know where to start, really. I mean, like I say, I started it with no grand designs, no intentions for what this could potentially become. But I just realised really sort of quickly, holy shit, there are so many people who need this sort of thing. And I get messages from people out of the blue saying, I haven't drunk for a few months because of you, because you're telling my story and I drank like you, and had people messaging saying, I've lost my job because of my drinking, what do I do? And people who have reached out on behalf of other crew members say, I think we've got somebody on board who's got a drinking problem, what can I do? You know, and I just feel incredibly honoured, actually, to be able to, I mean, I've said before, it's probably career suicide, because the reality is captains would probably rather hire somebody with a secret drinking problem than hire somebody who admits that they don't drink openly. But I just feel that this is so important. And like I say, the response I've had has just shown me that. And every time I feel like I'm faltering, or I feel like am I doing the right thing? I get a message from somebody who says, you know, can you give me a bit of advice, or can you, like, you know, I saw this video and I really related, and it just reminds me that it's so important, because the industry is big and vast and worldwide, and as we say, it can just be so isolating. So just knowing that you're not alone, and all those feelings that we go through, you know, where, like we say, waking up with that self-loathing, that shame, that fear and dread, and feeling like the only person who feels like this, feeling like the worst person in the world, and you don't even know why. It's so common, and it's so isolating, and it's really hard to navigate on your own. And I have learned that just having somebody to talk to, and people who get it, is just life-changing. So that's just what I hope to bring, is just like somebody for people to talk to if they're struggling, or even if they're just sober, you know. And it's like, I'm looking for work at the moment. I can't wait to get back on a boat, you know, again, and just to be able to be like, hey, I'm here, let's meet up, let's, you know, start to really build that community in person. So yeah, can't wait.
It sounds like exciting times ahead. I know you've got a lot of plans moving forward, but it would be really good, I think we could maybe do a special episode and maybe really nail down tools and techniques
100%.
On how an individual can start reflecting, maybe changing habits, changing their story. So alcohol is not the main event in their lives. So I'd love to have you on the podcast again, if you're willing.
100%.
One of the reasons what we wanted to do this, apart from your great work, is that in Monaco this year, we are doing an awareness campaign about drink spiking. Now, we haven't covered that in this episode. Last year in Monaco, another thing women have to deal with, there was a whole bunch of ladies and had their drink spikes. So, you know, biggest yacht show in the entire world, and women still have to. And I'm not talking about just crew. These were industry ladies. You know, it's not just the young girls. These were ladies having their drinks spiked in, you know, one of the most expensive marinas on the planet, which was extremely disappointing. But this, you know, as we've said about, you know, getting yourself into situations, you don't even need to get yourself into a situation. It can literally turn up.
It can happen to you.
Yeah. You know, you might even drink only 2 drinks, and then obviously the arsehole factor comes out, and, you know, you've...
And it's also, I know this is a podcast for women, but I mean, I know men who've been spiked to be mugged, and and they've woken up, had the shit beaten out of them, you know. It's really, It's something, even now we're talking about drinking, obviously, but like as a non-drinker, doesn't make me any less vulnerable to having my drink spiked. It's a really, it's prevalent.
No, it's a big thing. We did a poll just after that case was, the cases came out last year, and we asked our community where, if it had happened to them and where it had happened, and every single marina that super yachts go to was flagged. So it's definitely something that women need to be aware of. So this whole episode, like I said, your own responsibility of drinking is only one part of the story. You know, it can also be other individuals trying to ruin your day and your experience.
And your life, ultimately.
So, this has just been a great addition to talking about drinking and responsibility, and unfortunately women and what we have to deal with. So we will definitely have you on again.
Fab.
To talk about probably more technical issues with drinking and how to, have a healthier relationship with it, or just be healthier yourself if you'll be up for it.
Defo.
If you would like to see what Laura's been up to, all of the links will be provided in the bio below. It's the Sober Crew Social Club.
Nailed it.
Yes. Yes. I deserve a glass of wine for that. No, I'm joking. Terrible joke.
Why is it that you use alcohol to avoid? That's a question for next time.
It's over that cake, It's
ain't
one
nothing,
or the other.
nothing wrong with cake.
Nothing wrong with cake. If you like what Laura's doing, please follow her on social media. We will be doing more stuff to do with drinking, not just sobriety, but obviously safety and safety in marinas. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Cherise. It's great to be here.
Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. If you have enjoyed this podcast, we have a whole bunch of other podcasts. Please check them out. And if you want to maybe be more of an active member in the community, please check out the Yacht Pearls of Wisdom app. Laura has agreed to add some content in there, so there'll be some stuff in there, hopefully from yourself. And there's loads of other useful information in there relating to female experiences on and off the boat. So until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
There we go.